Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talking About Wrestling, right here on the Black Fitness Network. I'm your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere but Memphis, because it's not. It'll be 70 degrees on Christmas next week. And I love it personally because I don't care about white Christmas. Make it warm. Make it warm for me. Me and my family are barbecuing. So we're doing our own traditional. If you think that everybody in Memphis barbecues for Christmas, that is not true. But we are. Just want to throw that out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talking About Wrestling. It is approximately 5 days before Christmas. Is that where we are now? 5 days before Christmas. Until Christmas, rather. And this is essentially my Christmas episode, but we're not going to talk a lot of Christmas stuff this time. I may do a year-end thing for next week's show. Maybe cover some things that I really enjoyed this year. But that's not what we're going to do here. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the wrestling world. Like I came to this show kind of thinking like, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. And I was like, but a lot happened this week, so I guess we're just going to cover that. So before we get into everything, of course, we got to take care of some business. I want to make sure I thank everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Talking About Wrestling podcast, to the Black Fitness Network. This week, if you're a person that tunes into all my content this week, I did not do It Was Up Wednesday. And I didn't even make a post saying that I didn't do it. The truth of the matter is I actually kind of forgot about it. I was at work, and it was almost time, and I was like, oh, crap, I hadn't wrote anything, so I'm just going to have to miss out on this one. So this week, did not do It Was Up Wednesday. We'll definitely do a year-end Was Up Wednesday article, maybe even two, because I know I need to have a couple in the can. So maybe even two for the upcoming next Wednesday. So we'll make sure I will definitely be back next week. Probably will make up for it with an extra article as well. Something I plan on fixing in 2024 is being a little more consistent with my scheduling and how I'm getting things done and make sure I have stuff done ahead of time. Manifesto Mondays, obviously at this point, will return in 2026. The format may be one way or the other, I don't know. But Talking About Wrestling will always be here. And it's also will be on Spotify and YouTube. 2026, I want to see these numbers explode, okay? So I'm going to, over the next week, I'm going to set a goal for the numbers that I want to hit, and I'm going to need you guys' help to hit those numbers because we don't grow without you. We don't grow if you don't share. We don't grow if you don't show. It sounds freaky when I say it, but we don't grow if you don't show. All right? So it's going to be imperative that you like it here on Substack, that you like it on YouTube, that you like it on Spotify, that you comment anywhere that you can comment, that you leave a rating, that you leave a review, anything. Like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, anything that you can do to engage with this podcast in the many different places that this podcast may be. Make sure that you do that. It will greatly help visibility with the channel, greatly help visibility with the podcast. And the more we grow, the more things that we can do. I have several people next year that I want to bring in for different episodes. So there's a lot to happen in 2026 that I really want to do. Biggest thing is I definitely want to explode these numbers. I want to have more eyes on the product, more eyes on the podcast, and definitely expand the brand, not just the podcast, but the entire channel, the entire Black Fitness Network. So, but if you're here now, and if you've been here, And if you're here pretty regularly, thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for 2025 has been the birth of the Black Phoenix Network, and we are off and running. And we're gonna keep going all the way through 2026. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here on the ground floor as we build this thing up. Okay. Second order of business before we get started. You know what we gotta do. You already see a part of it. But we gotta go with the shirt of the day, right? So we're gonna go hit it with you see, you already see that, and you probably already see. Okay, so let me back up and let you see what's going on. Little All Elite Wrestling action, rocking the red and green for the Christmas. Listen, man. If you think that I'm a bought and paid AEW shield, no, because they hadn't bought or paid for anything here, and I wish they would pay for some streams or some sponsorships or something, please. I would greatly welcome it. But to say that I'm an AEW fan would be an understatement. All right. And further evidenced by my choice of attire. Right. Now, I didn't just choose to rock this AEW fit because it's time to get my hair redone. And even though it doesn't look crazy, I just wanted to rock a hat. No, that's not why. That's not why. I chose this AEW fit to represent for Sports Illustrated's promotion of the year, All Elite Wrestling. And boy, do it got some of you WWE drones in a tizzy. It got your man. They got your man, don't it? Because how could they're not as big in WWE and the sellouts and the all over the country and the numbers and the buy rates and the billions and the blah, 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 blah. Sports Illustrated said, yeah, man, we don't care about that. We don't care about that. Not only was AEW the promotion of the year, a majority of the awards that they covered in the Sports Illustrated Awards was dominated by AEW. And personally, I love to see it. I love to see it. I don't disagree with a lot of the stuff they said. Now, I will, like I said, I think I will cover something. I won't do like an award thing necessarily this year, but I will like cover some stuff next year. And I'm gonna and next week, I will cover some stuff from 2025 that I enjoyed. Because obviously everybody's doing like their wrap up stuff, so it's going to, of course, make me have to do some kind of, oh yeah, I forgot about that because it's a thing. So I'm gonna work on that. Next week's show will actually be one that I prepare for the entire week, or at least today. So be on the lookout for that. But moving, like I said, they dominated these awards. Okay. And the WWE draws are in his. But the truth of the matter is, man, like WWE is probably doing record numbers, right? Record business. They absolutely probably are. It wouldn't shock me. I doubt it probably Attitude Era numbers, but at the same time, they probably are very historic. They have grown, and they're probably making the ticket gross is probably ridiculous because they're selling thousands of tickets for thousands of dollars as opposed to what it used to be. So they can't help but make more money. But has it been creatively satisfying as a company compared to AEW, the company where so many of you want so hard to believe that they don't tell stories? Well, they do. They do. And one of those awards that they won was Storyline of the Year, Feud of the Year. It was a feud of storyline. I'm actually going to go and see for myself. I actually have it pulled up. Storyline of the Year. Both of them, actually. Storyline of the Year, the winner was Hangman Adam Page's redemption arc, which was a kind of a low-key story until it wasn't, right? like for all intents and purposes, everyone that I pretty much knew, even as he was going through the Owen, everyone seemed to think Will Ospreay was set to be the winner. Made it to the finals, thought he was set to be the winner, and ultimately it was Hangman, which was a shock to a lot of people. Like, oh, so because the thing was, Moxley was losing that title at all in Texas. Ospreay would have been good. Hangman was better, and everything that came out of that, I think, was better. Now, there's a lot of back and forth about his title reign, but even where we are now, I think we're in a better place, I think, than the Ospreay timeline. Plus, he had to go out and heal. You know, he having issues with his neck, so it all made sense in that regard once it was over. But the redemption of Hangman, absolutely, story of the year. I can't think of, again, I hadn't been on WWE that much this year to keep up, but I don't think there's anything that's been close. So much of this year has been dominated by the Cena tour, and like that's kind of been it. But Hangman, from where Swerve took him in 2024 to where he is now, or to where he got to, was absolutely amazing to see. And I think it started like with the MJF feud, which has kind of carried through to even now, even this past week, Dynamite. Um, the match was that, you know, again, a lot made about the Texas Death Match, but for me to be in that building, let me tell you, because everybody was waiting on the moment, and it was just like you only have to do one thing to make this right, and that's the right outcome. It's one of those things that it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do the final thing right, and they did. So, you know, we got all the moments. We got everybody coming out to help that was supposed to help. We got the Swerve moment at the end. We got Darby coming back. We got Daniel Bryan coming back. Well, Bryan Danielson coming back. Sorry. Um, you know, so we really had, and then ultimately we had Hangman um, finally winning the championship. And like I said, and all the fallout from that night and that decision has led us to where we are now. And I think, again, if you're thinking that WWE does not tell stories, you are whatever. So, absolutely, the story of the year and the rivalry of the year, which was Hangman and Moxley. Now, I could offer some pushback there because, again, some of the Hangman stuff kind of feels like if you're not paying attention and you weren't thinking that's where we were going for All In, then it's kind of like, oh, okay. But there's even long term, not even necessarily long term storytelling in the Hangman Mox feud, but like callbacks to stuff, right? Hangman, if I'll say this again, that story thing that people keep saying, hey, you doesn't tell a story, they just go match it together, whatever. Hangman Adam Page alone is it is one of the most storied, like lore driven characters in that company. Period. Period. And because because AEW, unlike WWE, does not treat things like they never happened, even within their own company, they can always pull from and call back that lore. Swerve, no, I'm sorry. Hangman had stories with Swerve, Moxley, MJF, Kenny Omega, Dark Order, Christopher Daniels, he can pull from each of those stories. Samoa Joe. So when they revisit these things, it isn't necessarily, oh, we're doing that again. Oh, we've already seen this. It's like there's history here. The different alignments make things different. When he and Swerve are face to face now, it's a little different than it was when they were face to face when they wanted to kill each other, right? Now that the biggest moment of All In was Swerve handing him the chain that ultimately got him the win versus Moxley. And there's a weird, interesting bit of symbolism where they're still like, maybe they hate each other, but there's mutual respect. But both of them come out now wearing a chain, right? Just kind of this, like I said, it's kind of this unspoken respect kind of thing. So there's that. There's stories everywhere. There's stories with the Bucks. Now there's story with Joe and the Ops. Like this is this is a fallacy to say that doesn't exist. So for Mox and Hangman to be rivalry of the year feels short. And it definitely isn't like his Swerve feud at all. But and again, there's history. So I don't know if it was feud of the year for me, but then I probably would be hard pressed to find another one. But what we got from it still absolutely knocked it out the park. See, okay, all right. Because I'm looking, some of their runner-ups were Tony Storm and Mariah May, and CM Punk and Seth Rollins. I actually could see CM Punk and Seth Rollins, but it's so start and stop because they kind of get into it, then they kind of don't. They kind of get into it, and they kind of don't. Tony Storm and Mariah May actually feels like the one, but I know why they probably didn't give it to them because the majority of it actually happened in 2024 when she lost that All in London is when she originally lost the title. The turn happened after the Owen. Why didn't the Owen final happen at Double or Nothing last year? Why was that on Dynamite? That's strange. But I guess it was on a. That's interesting. I thought that always happened at Double or Nothing. But anywho, yeah, because the Tony Storm and Mariah May feud was definitely one of the top feuds in that company as well. That doesn't tell stories. Get the out of here. What else would we dominate? Best on the mic, timeless Tony Storm. That's just goes without saying. Anytime Tony's on the mic, it is absolutely insane. A lot of sexual. It's at you know what it is now. It's that sprinkle of attitude era, just a sprinkle of attitude era that you don't get anywhere else on TV. You're definitely not getting anywhere in WWE. We're very sanitized over there. AEW, there's a lot of F bombs, and I mean, like it is one particular aspect of of the Attitude Era, because like the thing about the Attitude Era was there was a lot of sexualization in the Attitude Era. Most of it came at the hands of like men or like bikini clad women and that kind of thing. I loved it. I'm not gonna act like I'm some pure whatever. I absolutely was here for the nonsense and sexualization of the Attitude Era because I was of the age. Hell, I'm still of the age where that kind of thing did it for me. I was big on Sable and the Jacqueline nip slip and different moments. The Attitude Era was a wild time. It was a wild time. But obviously you turn that down, tone that down. And it is problematic. When you go back and watch, it is problematic. Now you can't do that. But you know who can't get away with it for some reason? Tony Storm. And I think it's not like overly sexual. Like she's sexualized, but she doesn't necessarily sexualize anybody else. But the things she says are just so outrageous sometimes that it's like, wait, what? You know, um, it. So on the ring, in the ring, she's probably still the best, one of the best characters in the company. Her again, her and Hangman, two best. Listen, and then Swerve, two biggest fumbles in WWE history, and there's no way they could have done with them what they're doing now. Tony Storm, Swerve Strickland, you would have never figured it out, no doubt. Hangman was a runner-up. He definitely gives some very impassioned promos, but they're very screamy sometimes. I'm not even gonna lie. You know, so but I do love his promos. He will fire you up. Best the ring, of course, is Will Ospreay. Of course, it's Will Ospreay. Who I just want to see who the runner ups were. Because I know I was like, because I EO Sky. Okay, that's fair. Takeshita. I would have said that the Takeshita should have been in the winner maybe of this next category that I'm going to mention. But I think he's already had that in previous years. But he's close. He definitely should have been a, a contender there. EO Sky definitely had some great matches. That everybody lauds that WrestleMania match, and it is great because it was the best match of WrestleMania this year. I despise that Bianca didn't win, and that we ruined her streak, and that she broke her fingers, and we hadn't seen her anymore this year. Despise it, despise it. But um, Will Ospreay as the in-ring talent of the year, absolutely. Match after match after match. Hangman Adam Page, that cage match at Forbidden Door, uh, the tag match at All In with Swerve and the Bucks. If I had to pick my match of the year, and I'm gonna give you a spoiler for next week, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be my match of the year because in person, just whoa, Bucks, yeah, yeah, in person, absolutely should have been match of the year, absolutely should have been. But Will Ospreay is no doubt in ring competitor of the year. Now, the next one I was going to talk about, breakout wrestler of the year. This one also is a no-brainer. But I think there's some options that you can pick. But Kyle Fletcher was the breakout wrestler of the year, and that's absolutely true. I have watched him, and I know I mentioned it several times before. Every time pay per view comes on, like that's the match I end up falling asleep on for some reason. That is no fault of Kyle Fletcher. That's not to say that his matches aren't interesting. That's not to say that he's not interesting. Kyle Fletcher is absolutely, absolutely an amazing wrestler. His matches have been bangers. Okay, bangers. That match with Speedball last week was a banger. The street fight he had with was it a street fight or whatever it was, Bunkhouse Brawl, whatever that he had with Dustin Rhodes for the TNT Championship was a banger. Okay, the match I actually got to saw in person with Okada, banger. Week after week, banger. The match he had with Pac this week was a banger. He just like we're talking about with Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher's right there, right there. He wrestles with this weird intensity and like, yeah, absolutely a breakout. So if 2024 was like the year that he's kind of stepped out on his own, 2025 he absolutely broke out on his own, and he's 100%. I say the same thing about Takeshita, and I definitely think this about Kyle Fletcher. Will 100% be a world champion in AEW market. We're going to get Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay matches for world championships, and he challenged for the world title this year against Hangman. Like, absolutely a breakout year for Kyle Fletcher. 110%. Definitely gonna be a main event. Their main event slot, their main event scene is in such good hands. You know, they're in such good hands for the next at least 5 years. You know, these guys, Kyle Fletcher's young. Will Ospreay's gonna come back, you know what I'm saying, and he'll be a main eventer. Eventually, you know, Hangman still technically young, Swerve still young, MJF still young. Like, even though Joe's a champion right now, yeah, I think it's more storyline than anything. But like, these are young guys that are tapping on the uh, main event, either tapping on the main event window or actually in the main event window. So Kyle Fletcher is definitely going to be a guy that's going to be a champion. Will Ospreay is going to be a champion. Probably a couple of other guys I can point at that I say that one of these days. Darby, I think, though I don't ever really see it necessarily, it probably should happen that Darby is going to be champ one day. So this book it. Tag team of the year was FTR again. If any doubt. However, as I'm reading this, it says this was really a tough category to figure out in 2025. Brodito was a random but breakout team. Same thing with Jet Speed and Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. So I agree. I actually agree. Brodito definitely at least deserves a little bit of consideration in that regard. They did have, again, as I'm talking about everybody else, had a lot of bangers. I do think FTR perhaps should again have that honor. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Though again, I might give it to Brodito. I don't know. I'll have to. It's gonna be one that I'm gonna have to think about. Uh, let's see what else we got. Show of the year with AEW Double or Nothing. I had to go back and watch Double or Nothing. It was a good show. That's when we had the stadium stamp. No. That was Anarchy in the Arena, not a standard, not a stadium stampede. But Okada, Mike Bailey. I had to go back and watch that one. Because what comes to mind is Anarchy in the Arena. Hangman and Ospreay obviously was a really great match this year. I'm gonna go back and watch that. I might watch that today. I don't think I have anything else to do today. Mercedes and Jamie Hayter was a good match. That was the Owen finals as well. Okay, all right. So yeah, and you know what? Okay, yeah. Some of the runners were WWE Evolution. I watched Evolution. It was really good. All in Texas. See, I might be biased because I was at All In Texas, and it was the best live wrestling experience that I've ever had. Probably better than any Mania, because I think my seats were better than any Mania that I've ever had. The only thing close to me would be WrestleMania 25. And All In Texas, All In is like their Mania, so I compared them to the Manias. It may still have been the best, and it was long, but it was in the afternoon, and by the time I left, it was like I think all in all, it was probably one of the best experiences at a wrestling show that I've had at a that kind of wrestling show. And I went with one of my homies, from my Facebook wrestling group. So I'm gonna try to get him on the show so we can talk about that one of these days. Shout out, EJ. But I had to go back and watch Double or Nothing. But I definitely understand why when I look at the when I look at the card, I can see that. Female wrestler of the year, there's no doubt. Mercedes Moné. No doubt. What? I didn't even know this was a thing. In her first full calendar year as a wrestler since 2021, with no injuries or hiatuses getting in her way. And what did she do? Stunt every day of the year. 12 different championships, 14, 12 separate championships and 14 belts across AEW, New Japan, CMLL, ROH, Rare Pro, and other independents. She holds the record for both the AEW TBS and the New Japan Strong Women's Championships as the longest reigning title holder in history. She won the Owen. She was the number one wrestler in the PWI 250. She headlined the biggest all-women's wrestling show in 7.5 years and became the first woman to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, Arena Mexico, Wembley Stadium, and Madison Square Garden. How are you people talking shit on Mercedes Moné? I don't respect your opinions. We're way too deep in this because I didn't even want to get this deep into it. Male Wrestler of the Year was Hangman Adam Page. Of course it was. We talked about the redemption story, feud of the year, matches of the year, contenders. Absolutely. There's no doubt there. There's nobody too equal. You can make the case for John Cena, but not really. Not really. And of course, like I said, promotion of the year is AEW because why not? The redemption arc of Hangman Adam Page, Lil Will Ospreay, Lil Swerve Strickland, Lil Mercedes Moné, Okada going ham, Kyle Fletcher going ham, Kenny Omega's in the building, Young Bucks still serving, Bro Dito. They have the misses have been far fewer and far between than anything than ever before. You people are just haters. Some of y'all just haters. Just haters. The feeling is restored. That's on my mind. Another reason. Let's move on. I didn't even mean to get into all that deep. Because I got to get my stuff next week. So that's that. Let's close that out. Another thing to talk about. This one's gonna be a little tricky, or it could be a little tricky. So one thing I want to address here. I know a lot of wrestling and just content creators in general try to stay away from conversations that go into a little bit of political leaning. And the same thing with a lot of sports channels because you tune in for sports and you don't want to deal with the politics of the day. So I may not even cover this long necessarily because I do understand why some podcasts and some content creators choose, especially when they focus on things like wrestling or sports or something other or any kind of other entertainment, try not to display their political thoughts, beliefs, views, leanings, whatever you want to call it. So, and you can only really do that sometimes when you can address something that happens in the world of wrestling. Because you have to tie, because otherwise you're just dipping into just something completely that people didn't ask for. Here's the thing with WWE, let's just call a spade a spade. Let's call a thing a thing. With WWE, they have leaned very much so into the Trump presidency, right? I mean, hell, Linda McMahon is in his cabinet killing the Department of Education because they want us, stupid, whatever. So, and Triple H is always, he's been on TV right beside him in the Oval Office plenty of times, right? And he's gone on record on some of these, he's made some comments about, pretty much praising the Big Orange Man. or Little Orange Man because he's a very little man, but whatever. So I want to make sure I put this out here now. And I'm not going. I'm probably not even going to go in too deep about it, but I am 110% not a fan of the Cheeto in chief in the White House. And I don't even think it's necessary to even be like, well, what? We know why. And if you don't know why, you're just in a cult. At this point, you're in a cult. Sorry. And if that makes you not want to watch talking about wrestling no more, I completely understand and see yourself out. That's where I stand. Now, I won't even go too deeper into that, but that's where I stand. And I say all that to say much respect to the hardcore legend, Mick Foley. Because over this week, Mick Foley has severed ties with WWE because of their alignment with the Orange. Now, I've also seen people say, well, why was this the thing that made him want to run away? Has he been so bad before? And you know what? There may be an argument to be made there. There's probably a case to be made there. So what happened is last weekend, a Hollywood legend, Rob Reiner, was murdered. He and his wife were murdered in their home, um, allegedly by their son. All the condolences come in from Hollywood, but there's one particular message from the so-called president of the United States that was the most disgusting thing that most people have ever seen. Most people had the very same reaction that I had when I saw it, like, there's no way that this can be real. This has to be AI. You have to be sure about this kind of things because it could be AI. It wasn't AI. And not only was it not AI, he got on TV and he doubled down on it. The most disrespectful, disgusting comments. I will not even get into repeating them because, again, that's not why you're here. That's not even the point. Mick Foley sees this and he says, you know what? I'm out. And he was already, I've seen other posts. I think I've seen other things where, like, he made it clear. He made it clear before the election where he stood. He's made it clear since the election where he stood. He ain't rocking with dude. But he was under contract with WWE and, he was, you try to separate things and whatever. The more they lean into him, the Cheeto dude, I could tell the more Mick was like, I ain't really trying to. And so with this last little thing, he's like, yo, if y'all not gonna walk away from him, I'm walking away from y'all. And I respect that 110%. There are a lot of creators who'd say that this is their job. And it is. That covering wrestling is their job. That covering WWE is their job, and it is their job. So they can't cut ties with WWE. They can't not watch WWE. They can't not cover WWE. Well, I don't. I mean, maybe I should. And here's the thing: there's stuff in WWE that I will cover. But as a whole, I stopped rocking with that company. You all know it a while ago. Some of it for different reasons. Listen, there's more than one reason why not to rock with WWE. Their affiliation with the Orange being one of the least of them. If we're being honest, there's a lot of reasons to jump the deuce at these people. The product isn't great. So there are people who kind of butt hurt and call, whatever. So Mick's gone. And I, for one, applaud him to no end for standing up for what I would say is right. So just a snippet of his conversation, of his statement. While I've been concerned about WWE's close relationship with Donald Trump for several months, especially in light of his administration's ongoing cruel and inhumane treatment of immigrants and pretty much anyone who looks like an immigrant, reading the president's incredibly cruel comments in the wake of Rob Reiner's death is the final straw for me. Stand on business. That's how you do that. That's how you stand on business. Shout out to Mick Foley. I no longer wish to represent a company that coddles a man so seemingly void of compassion as he marches our country towards autocracy. Last night, I informed WWE Talent Relations that I would not be making any appearances for the company as long as this man remains in office. That's how you stand on business. Period. So he's under a Legends deal until June. He will not be signing a new one when the contract expires. So I don't know what he does. He doesn't even have, and you know, the 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 shill in me is like he can do stuff with AEW. I'm sure there's some cool stuff he can do with AEW. Mox is there, like Darby's there. That's some, doing some Mick Foley and Darby Allin stuff would be really interesting. Really interesting. But he already has Sting, but doing some Mick Foley stuff with Darby Allin would be crazy. He can't take it. I don't think he. I'm pretty sure he's not taking any bumps anymore. Because if he was still taking bumps, doing something with the Death Riders would have been crazy too. Mick Foley in AEW would be madhouse. I would love to see it. But even even if he doesn't do that, the shill in me wants. There's some things I would love to see, but doesn't sign that deal. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of pretty much a free agent, free to do whatever he wants to do because he's Mick Foley. So his bookings are going to be bookings, and he's going to be fine without WWE. He's not on TV much anyway. They kind of call him in when they need something. He just makes appearances for them. He can make appearances for himself, and I don't know financially what that does, but I'm pretty sure he has no problem pulling down pulling down numbers because he's not associated with WWE anymore. And probably, if anything, it's probably a little more freeing that he can do more. So we'll see what happens with Mick Foley. I personally, again, applaud him for standing on business. So shouts out to Mick Foley, man. I always knew I liked you. I always know I liked you, Mick. That's it. Not even gonna talk about. It's funny because here's a report. I was about to look for something else, but here's a report. And it says how much Mick Foley is really risking by cutting off WWE due to Trump. Let's look into this by Ryan Clark on wrestlingnews.com. Let's look. The WWE Hall of Fame announced the move cost some serious money from both his Legends deal and his live tour business. Foley is giving up what is reportedly free money from WWE merchandise and his Legends deal, on top of risking ticket sales for a successful one-man show. Foley has already seen a lot of people cancel tickets in markets like Alabama after his criticism of Trump. However, the WWE legend understands that speaking out will hurt his income, yet he is still moving forward because he believes political stakes are high. Foley does very, very well in touring revenue. Listen, sometimes you got to stand on business, period. Sometimes you have to stand on business. I don't really know. Yeah, I already did that match. Oh, okay. I don't really know, stand on business. Shout out to Mick, man. Anyway, let's move on. We had Dynamite this week. We had a Dynamite and Collision. This was strange because they're still doing a Collision today as well. So I don't know what we're doing there, but we did a Dynamite and Collision. We did 2 hours of Dynamite, 1 hour of Collision. I guess we're doing another hour of Collision unless there's a 2 hour. I'm not sure what we're doing this afternoon, but we're doing a Collision too. So, and this afternoon because they're over in London or over in the UK. Dynamite was great. 3 hours as always, a little bit long. A lot of Okay, these are the tapings. Ah, okay. So these are the tapings before. Okay, cool. Yeah, Moxley versus Roddy Strong was a good match. Really good match. The Elite reunited, defeated the Don Callis family, won them $1 million back for the Bucks. We had more Okada Takeshita shenanigans. I'm gonna hold off on this one thing because that's the highlight. That's the main thing I'm gonna talk about here. 8-woman tag with Mercedes Moné Athena, Megan Bayne, Marina Shafir defeating Thomas Tony Storm, Mina Shirakawa, Harley Cameron, Willow Nightingale. That was an 8-woman tag match. Mercedes pinned Willow, which I thought was a tricky thing to do because they just won those tag team titles, and then the next time you're sitting there getting pinned. But it makes sense because you got pinned by Mercedes, who's the TBS champion, and at World's End, it would be Athena and Mercedes taking on Harley and Willow for the women's tag team championships. I think Harley and Willow will win that because I'm gonna have to give predictions next week too. Next week's gonna be a loaded show. So I think Harley and Willow will win. They pinned Athena in the tournament. I think they pinned Mercedes. Willow particularly probably pins Mercedes at World's End. We're on the slide. We're on the slide. So Mercedes has not been pinned. She's been pinned 3 times this year. That'll make 4. That's how great her year has been, by the way. Okay. Continental Classic match, we had Pac defeating Kyle Fletcher. Really good match. He pulled out the Black Arrow for the first time since he's been back. We had the Dynamite Battle Royale. The finalists who will compete next week are Bandito and Ricochet. Very interesting. I'm going to come back to that too. We also had Orange Cassidy versus the Mascara Dorada on the opening collision. We had Jamie Hayter defeating Isla Dawn, and Chris Statlander came out. Hayter ended up hitting him with the clothesline. FGR defeated the Bang Bang Gang. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that is what happened. The highlight of the night was the contract signing between Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, and Hangman Adam Page. Now, first thing I'll say about this before we get too deep into it, did definitely run long. It was kind of long-winded. Everybody had to say their piece. Hangman particularly went on a little long, I thought. It felt a little rambly at one point. Hangman was basically talking about, when I was the champion, we all worked together to defeat the Death Riders. And he's saying, had we figured out that we needed to work together, it could have been Joe because he had a match. We figured out we could have worked together. It could have been Hangman because we know it could have been Swerve because he had a match. He's like, but it was me. And since it was me, I was prepared to give you all matches when you came looking for those matches. But here we are, here we are. So everybody said their piece. Like I said, Hangman's kind of feels a little rambly. He tells Joe, I don't know who's going to win, but it won't be you. And then the lights go out. And we see that familiar scarf drop. We hear that familiar thing. And out comes the returning MJF. And I'm be honest here. I was shocked for a couple of reasons. So, low key, this was taped a little earlier before they actually showed it on TV. It was taped obviously earlier in the day. So I saw a spoiler that somebody was returning. Had no idea who they were talking about. I did not look at it because I didn't want to be spoiled. The shock here isn't necessarily that MJF is back because they were doing the Dynamite Battle Royal for the ring. So of course he's going to be back for that because he's always in that. I figured if any time this was the year to beat him, but he's always in there. Instead, they brought him back during this contract signing. And speaking of contract signing, he comes out and cashes in his contract that he wanted All In Texas. So now this match is going to be a fatal four-way. Did not see any of that coming. And then he does what MJF does, gets on the mic, tears into Adam Page, tells Hangman basically, the way to hurt you is to defeat you and two of your biggest rivals in AEW. And I need to do that to prove on the man. Because that was the thing before he left, right? He goes to Joe, tells Joe, hey, at World's End, you beat me for my title. And things hadn't been the same for me since. So at the same place you beat me for mine, I'm going to beat you for yours. And that makes sense. And then he gets in the swerve. There's a Diddy reference in there. Talks about his time in NXT. And basically says, it's not your house, it's my house, and rent's due. Instant intrigue in this match because there's now a good chance that it could be MJF. It could be MJF. Again, I think this went a little long. It was great. It was great. Do you feel like it went a little long? Because what I would have preferred would be, and I know why he kind of had to do it, but I would have preferred MJF comes out. Like I said, lights drop. Everything happens. Lights drop. Music hits. He comes out looking like $1 million. Comes in, signs his contract, hands it to Shivani, throws the pen, and leaves. Doesn't say a word. Completely different because what we always see is MJF on the mic cutting that promo. Whatever. So this time, completely different, all business. And then on Collision or on next week's Dynamite, then you give him a segment to cut that promo that he cut. I get that the face-to-face aspect of things makes it a little more intense, but I think that would have been a great punctuation to that segment. No words, sign the contract, leave. Leave everybody in the ring looking dumbfounded at what the hell just happened. But we got what we got. I've seen a lot of back and forth about that particular segment. Again, I think it went well, but I understand why some people feel kind of. I've seen people say, the thing about MJF, he pretty much cuts the same promo every time he cuts a promo. Understand that as well. They're good promos though. They're not even like low hang. This wasn't even like a low hanging fruit cut promo. This was basically him giving the reasons that he has a beef with everybody involved in this match. So this wasn't even like the typical low hanging fruit thing for real. Like these were legit claims, except for like Swerve a little bit. But I also understand what he was saying. So this was a really good promo, really good segment. Did go a little long. That's perfectly fine. Meanwhile, in the C2 continues to be the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year. The C2 is fantastic. These matches are just like hook me up, hook this up to my veins, and pump it into me regularly. This is what I need in my life. C2 is great. AEW is great. That is why AEW is promotion of the year. It's not even a question for me. So I don't even. That is not even going to be a category for me. So there's that. But we move on. Our final topic today. There's a lot of scuttlebutt. Last week, we did a bit of a perspective on John Cena's career, especially as it pertains to me. And we did that because last weekend was John Cena's final match in WWE against Gunther on Saturday night's main event. Now, I'm pretty sure I predicted, I have to go back, but I know I did because why not? That Gunther was going to win. There was no reason for him not to win. I don't know if I said that Cena was going to tap out, but he told Cena he was going to make him tap out. And lo and behold, that's what happened. Gunther makes Cena tap out for the first time since who knows when. Uh, I forgot how long they said it had been, but Gunther makes Cena tap, and and the fallout from that has been hilarious. I am I'm not like a traditionalist per se when it comes to that, but I've always understood like you go out on your back. If you're leaving, you go out on your back. Now there are special circumstances where I understand that not being the case, but um, this wasn't that. They build so much. Like I think people feel like they build it up so high, and everybody had such high hopes. They was like, he's gonna go one last time, and he's gonna fight the good fight, and he's gonna win, and he's gonna just. And then like, no, it's not. I know all you people are here for Cena. All right, you people are here for Cena. It's Cena's last match. So now so the reaction has been insane. So what happened next? Cena taps out. Crowd boos. They're stunned. It looks like WrestleMania 30 all over again. So after that, the entire roster comes out, including Triple H, who gets eviscerated by the crowd. You fucked up. You fucked up. What were the other chants? What were the other chants? I wish I could find it. You fucked up. They definitely chanting you fucked up. Apparently they were chanting AEW at him, which is always interesting. I don't think any of that is even necessary this particular go around. He didn't do anything wrong. People saying he screwed them. Like, now, the rest of the fucking tour, the farewell tour was apparently kind of botched from the heel turn on. But and I don't even think that personally myself. I understand why people say it, but like I don't think it was horrible. There are things I would have liked to do different. I think they weren't all in on it, but whatever. But I don't. Far be it for me to shoot Triple H some bail, but that was the right thing to do. Even if Gunther beat him, it wouldn't have been the same. He had to make once he said he was going to make him tap, he had to make him tap. And that again, even that beating Cena in his final match wasn't it would mean something, but it means more to make him tap, to make him do something that he has not done in like over a decade or whatever. I think it's been to make him do something that he hadn't done in all the time. Like, because Cena's lost matches and Gunther's beat people. So beating him into, um, beating him into basically unconsciousness and just pinning him 1, 2, 3. Wow, that was huge. The reaction that they got actually is kind of the reaction you want, except for like making Triple H the fall guy here. Because again, I don't think anything was wrong. This is exactly what you want. He had to make John Cena tap. The moment he said it, it had to happen. And it makes more sense for him to do that. It made sense for John Cena to tap, especially the way he tapped. If you were watching, Gunther has him in his rear naked. Cena fights and fights and fights and fights and fights and fights and fights. And finally, you see a smile come over his face and he taps. And it's like, and he's explained it since then, because this new modern wrestling fan these days is a very interesting breed, because I don't think they catch a lot of things, but us real wrestling fans who've been here for a while understand nuance. So Cena had to explain it, and I don't know if they feel any better about it, but he had to explain it. And he explained is, as a warrior, you fight and you fight, and then you look back on everything that you fought for, and you fight till there's nothing left. At that moment, there's nothing left, and you realize that you've given all you had, and everything's okay. It's like I said, it's people who fight death, if you want to take it to that degree. To say, it's making peace with that. He made peace with his end, and he tapped. It betrayed the John Cena character. He's never tapped before. Why would it? It completely betray his entire thing is never give up. Why would it? He was already leaving. He was already leaving. This was the right decision. And now Gunther's a made man. Whether you want him to be or not, Gunther's a made man. He was already made. I want to put in perspective. I said this last week. He has ended Goldberg and John Cena's career, two tent poles of their respective companies for a period. Legends defeated them both and ended their careers in 1 year. There is a case to be made for Gunther as Wrestler of the Year in 2025. Male Wrestler of the Year in 2025. Hadn't always been great, but a lot of it has been. He also won the World Heavyweight Championship. Started the year as champion, and won it again at one point. He'll probably win it again in a year or so. This leads me. I said something, and somebody else. So there are a couple of things that have happened. So I said right after that match, I said, he should be the person to end Randy Orton's career too. He should. Because Randy has been the legend killer for years. And it is only right that the legend killer loses his career to the new legend killer, or even better, the career killer. So that's what I said. That he should be the one to end Randy Orton's career. Now, the next thing I saw was somebody somewhere online say Gunther should end the entire OVW, or the heavy hitters of the OVW class of 2004. I think that's the class they came out. Or maybe it was 2002. No, it was 2002. Well, every year they came out of OVW. He should be the one to end all their careers. And I said, that makes even more sense. Shelton's gone. You can't do that. Batista's gone. You can't do that. But you know who you got left? You took out Cena. You should take out Randy Orton, in my opinion. There's one more, and this one makes he's even better. Because there's also rumor that Brock Lesnar's about to throw in the towel. The rumor is September 2026 SummerSlam 2026. I believe that when I see it, because they like to play games. But I would love to see Gunther be the one to put down Brock. And again, makes sense. Randy makes sense. The Brock Lesnar Gunther thing makes sense because we haven't seen it, but we've teased it. I think we've teased it in. Have we teased it in a Rumble? If we haven't, it's been rumored to be a match in Mania for years or somewhere. So that match is, and it's gonna look different than any other. It should look different than any other Brock match, any other Gunther match. I listen. There's not a lot I want to see from WWE that I think they're gonna give me. This one is one of them. Brock Lesnar, Gunther, and Gunther to be the one to end Brock's career too. Another notch on the belt, bro. Bro, do it. Book it. Hell, you can hear an OVW killer. I don't listen. Do it. Do it. If for no other reason, to piss off everybody who feels like Gunther's not all of that. Because listen, again, you know how I feel about WWE, but some of the performers I'm absolutely here for. Gunther is one of them. I don't rock with WWE as a company, but the performers are the performers. So do the thing, man. Do the thing. I've talked your ear off enough. It's a beautiful Saturday. You probably got to go do some Christmas shopping. So, on behalf of myself and the Black Fitness Network, I am wishing you and yours a happy holidays. Enjoy it. Spend some time with your family. If you don't like your family because maybe, they like a certain orange Jesus instead of whatever, hey, I understand that too. Find you some family. And if nothing else, connect with your wrestling family. Connect here at Talking About Wrestling because we'll be your family. And we all going to have a happy holidays up in this. You hear me? So until next time, thank you for tuning in. No, one more thing. If you want to give me a Christmas gift, all right, your Christmas gift to me can be liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, okay, reviewing, rating. Do something. Engage with the Talking About Wrestling podcast. That would do. I would love that personally myself. I would love it. Love it if you would do that for me. Engage with the Talking About Wrestling podcast. Like, share, subscribe, rate, review. Follow me here on the Black Fitness Network on Substack, Black Phoenix Brand on YouTube, Black Fitness Network on Spotify, Talking About Wrestling. It's all three places, and make sure you engage. Okay. I'm begging at this point. 2026, we're going to do some major things. Tune in next week. We're going to get into the year end and we're going to do our predictions for World's End. Might do our predictions for 2026. Next week is going to be a loaded show. Absolutely. I don't know when I'm going to. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Loaded show next weekend if we get ready. The final Talking About Wrestling of 2025 will be next weekend, next Saturday. This is the final. The final Talking About Wrestling before Christmas. So again, happy holidays to you, your family, your extended family, your wrestling family. Anybody that's tuned in to the Talking About Wrestling podcast, anybody that's tuned into the Black Fitness Network, thank you so much. We appreciate you. There are actually two more Talking About Wrestling. What's Up Wednesdays, because What's Up Wednesdays is going to be, that's interesting, cool. So thank you again for tuning in, Talking About Wrestling. I'm your host, the Untouchable J.R. Atkins. This is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. And as we always do at this time, we are... We out, baby.